I feel like my mind's been cleared of that fog. You know what I mean? Like I've lived it. I know how deep it can get, at least for me, and like how using drugs like really takes my life down to the ground. And for me, like I can see past those things now, and it's no longer oh man, like I wish I could have that, or I want that. Because the more and more I put myself around like-minded people that are trying to do better, stay sober, find a higher power, I find that my goals are no longer what the generation wants, or like that stigma wants. It's like, what am I doing spiritually? What are my goals? What does my future look like? How am I maturing, or being able to grow as a man, like we talked about? Like those are like my priorities. If you put into practice prayer and meditation and trusting in your higher power, eventually there's going to be evidence that shows you that he's in your life, to where you no longer question it. You're like, I know what to do. It's just a matter of, am I going to do it or not?
That's what I wanted, like, the topic to be about, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the direction I wanted to steer the conversation is based around that topic, right? Like being young and getting sober at a young age. So, like, one of the first questions is like, what is it like getting sober as a young person, and like, do you feel like did anything about the process like feel different to you?
Yes. No, man, that's a big thing for me. Obviously I just turned 25, being 2 years sober. It's been difficult because it was difficult at first, but not anymore. I'm actually extremely grateful that I got sober younger. But I do want to give a bunch of credit to you, because I know for sure for me, a big time when I was in the process of going in and out of treatments and rehabs and stuff, I was very, a lot of things seemed corny to me. My main priority wasn't what God's will was, or working a program, or praying, or even meditating. But I remember when I saw you and other guys my age that had some time in sobriety, and how you guys were living, and you guys made it seem cool to me. You made it attractive, like the program talks about, It attracted me, and I just wanted that. And genuinely, that's why I even picked you as a sponsor, if I can say that. I'm gonna just say it, like that's why I picked you as a sponsor, because I know for me, I didn't want an I didn't want an older guy, just because in my head at the time I'm like, okay, well it's easy for you to want to get sober because you're already in your 40s or 50s, like of course it's easy. For me, I'm like, it's easier. But on the flip side, I see guys, since I work in recovery, I see guys that are around like 60 years old, and they have to restart their whole lives because they've been using drugs and alcohol for 30 plus years. So at the same time, I'm like, man, that's even harder than me barely using for like 7 or 8 years, and, still being able to rewire my brain easier than like an older guy. But yeah, so I would say just a big thing was just finding the people that I related with and that liked the same things as me. And yeah, now I love it. I love it. A lot of guys are always like, Santana, you're wise for your age, and sometimes it's hard for me to even internalize that, because in my head I'm like, oh no, bro, there's no way, or I feel like it's like, a lot of ego, and like I don't want to feed that ego, but at the same time I got to learn to internalize it rather than just push it away or discredit myself. So, but definitely, like, with my relationship, it's been a little rocky, because in my head, I don't smoke or drink or go out like to clubs or bars like that. And a lot of normal people around 20, from 20 to 25 or whatever, that's what they enjoy doing. So that's been the difficult part. But I try to remind myself that I'm in this situation because I chose to use drugs and alcohol. And this is what I have to do for myself to have a better life. And now I'm at the point where, like, going out or going to clubs and stuff isn't even like something I even miss or want to do anymore. I enjoy my life today, and I enjoy involving God and growing spiritually, and that's like where I found my joy in my life today.
That's awesome, bro. And like, how do you feel like how are you doing that? Like, how are you being that beacon for the younger crowd? Do you feel like?
Mm.
Because you said like you got attracted to it, you know,
Yeah.
and so what are some of the things that you do that you act as that beacon for other people that are younger in sobriety? Maybe that you've been told or that you do intentionally.
Yeah, no, I would say that, since I work in treatment, it's a lot. It's a lot. I can be a beacon in that area a lot, because we get a lot of guys, and usually when we get younger guys in there, I try my best to be the example rather than like telling them what to do. I just try to show them by like when I'm teaching class or how I conduct myself or uh, giving advice or whatever, But I think the main thing, bro, is I just try to show them by that attraction. I just try to be happy. I try to come to work, in a good mood, looking clean. And usually I'll find that the guys that really want it will start talking to me and asking me, Santana, like, how do you do it? Or, what did you do? Or, you're an inspiration, things like that. And I always try to steer them in the direction of the 12 steps, because that's what worked for me was doing the 12 steps thoroughly and getting a sponsor and finding a higher power that worked for me. So, I try to not sugarcoat it. I try to just be very direct. Like this is what I did that worked. It's either you do that or I don't know, find another solution. But yeah, I think that's like the main thing.
Nice. What do you feel like are some of the challenges that you face um, being a young person in recovery, and like not like you said, not going to bars, not drinking, not smoking, especially in the world that we live in right now, where the main motto is like live in the present and enjoy yourself. You know?
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you face? If there are any.
Yeah, I feel like at first there was a lot, like obviously there still is, but I don't know. For me, man, like I've just like the glamorization that like I find that this generation puts on using substances and stuff. Like I feel like my mind's been cleared of that fog. You know what I mean? Like I've lived it. I know how deep it can get, at least for me, and like how using drugs like really takes my life down to the ground. And for me, like I can see past those things now. And it's no longer oh man, like I wish I could have that or I want that. Cause the more and more I put myself around like-minded people that are trying to do better, stay sober, find a higher power, I find that my goals are no longer what the generation wants or like that stigma wants. It's like, what am I doing spiritually? What are my goals? What does my future look like? How am I maturing or being able to grow as a man, like we talked about? Like those are like my priorities. So it's no longer it's no longer an issue. I would say my mind's been like cleared of that fog that I've had for so long, and I find that the more and more I'm just being genuine to myself and being myself, I realize that those are never even my priorities or my goals to begin with. Those were just planted in my head, and I just gravitated towards that to fit in. When in reality, that was never what I grew up doing.
Yeah, yeah. Damn, that's good, man. That's really good. And so, like you mentioned something about like how you're maturing as a man. How are the ways that you are maturing, um, as a person, that intertwine like the age and the spiritual principles? Like, what are some of the ways that you notice that you're maturing?
I would say that some ways that I've been maturing is prioritizing like my life, as in like what's important and what's not. Um, Definitely my relationships, especially with my girlfriend, because I'm so used to like toxic relationships, and it's funny because when I look at all my past relationships, they always went bad, and I always used to blame the girl all the time. But when I go back and look, the common denominator is I'm there in every single one. So there's only so long where I'm like, okay, the problem isn't the girl anymore. It's me. So like coming to that realization and like trying to work on myself rather than just being closed minded. Like, nope, I'm right, you're wrong, or like that's a big thing for me. I'm trying to get into like some therapy again, bro. I find that there's a lot of underlying issues that the program was able to like break open a little bit, but I want to get deeper into it and like really start to fix those underlying issues that came from just growing up, in that toxic household I was in, and cuz as much as I could blame my certain people in my life at that time, now that I'm 25 and I no longer live with those people, I can only blame myself because I'm the one that can fix this, and that's going to therapy, going to some sort of trauma therapy. Um, I would say like also maturing in spirit in my spirituality. Since the last time I was here, it's like a little over a year now. Like I've had like my goals have changed. Where like I'm trying to get baptized. I'm trying to stop vaping, bro. It's still been a struggle, but I'm genuinely like trying to stop vaping. Uh, Trying not to cuss so much anymore. Change the way I speak. Cause there's so many words in the vocabulary. Like there's no reason to be using cuss words or like profanity, But like I'm so used to it that like that's something I'm trying to stop doing as well. Um, and just like trying to just be like a better person every day. But I think just me being young, sometimes I'm just like it's still kind of hard to make those. Yeah, it's like a battle, Yeah. So I don't know if that answered the question. Okay, I think so.
Yeah, no, and I can definitely relate to all that too. Like especially that mental battle. I'm always going through that mental battle of whether well, like I always feel like I'm being so strict on myself. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But at the end of the day, when I get closer to God, I know the truth, and the truth is that I'm I'm always going to feel like, oh well, maybe it's okay to have fun because it's just a battle between my flesh and my spirit. And old like I know people that have been Christians or have been in the program or have studied the Bible, and they're a lot older and they still struggle with that
Right.
spiritual battle.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, but yeah, like I could definitely relate to that because it's like, dude, all the people I went to high school are having fun. Why can't why can't I?
Yeah.
Kind of mentality. But so looking back, what would you tell other young people who are trying to get sober but feel like they don't belong or won't fit in the recovery community?
That's a good question.
Or like to make it more simple, yeah, like what would you tell yourself,
I found that the moment I took the program serious was the moment I started feeling one with the community. Because I felt like for so long I was always in and out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I didn't really have I wasn't sold on the whole idea, and I feel like it rubbed off on people, or for me, where like since I wasn't taking it serious, people weren't really there was nothing to attract to, or there was nothing. I feel like people could feel it, or like I don't know. That's just how I felt about it. But the moment I took the program serious and was genuinely doing these steps and what people were talking about in this room is the moment I started finally like building relationships with people. I was caring about other people and starting to feel like I was becoming one with the program rather than feeling alienated even in a room full of drug addicts and alcoholics like myself. So definitely like taking the program serious as best as you can.
And what about for someone that's like hasn't gotten sober yet?
Like, what do you mean?
Like what would you say to someone that hasn't gotten sober yet?
if they're still struggling using, man, it's hard.
Like for young, you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, if I feel like if I would have known that there was a community of people my age that were sober and having fun,
Yeah.
and living good lives, I feel like it would have I would have been attracted to it a lot more earlier than at the time that I actually did get sober.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's just it's like I feel like I knew there was people there, but in my head, my priorities was still stuck on like that's just not cool. You know what I mean? Or I don't want to be cool with those people. I'm trying to keep getting high. Um, but a big thing like is for me is like, you know, if we get it sooner, bro, like we don't have to. We could still have a very successful life, you know, at a faster rate. I would say, you know, because a guy at 60 years old, where you know his body is not as physically strong to, he can't work no more, or you know he's just on social security, and you know like seeing those guys like have to rebuild their lives from something they've been doing all their life seems like more of an issue. Like it seems harder for me now, you know. So you know, I just realized that I didn't want to be. For me, I didn't want to be in that boat. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be in that boat where I'm 40 years old. Like, man, where did all that time go? You know. So I always try to tell guys that the sooner we can get it and start, the sooner we can get sober and stay sober and learn how to live life on life's terms, is the moment we can actually start having a future. Because for so long, my future was either, you know, like they say, jails, institutions, or death. You know what I mean? And I just realized I didn't want that no more. But it took a lot of patience, you know, because I get sober and it's like, man, like I don't have nothing, you know. And now you took away the drug that made me feel okay, and now I just got to sit in this. But a lot of times it's like you don't see the blessing in the moment, but when I reflect, I can like look at it and be like, man, that was a blessing that how everything played out. And now today, like, you know, I have a car that is paid off, you know, something I never had. My own place that I rent out, nice clothes, a healthy relationship to a certain degree that I'm trying to work on, relationship with my family, friends. Uh, I feel like all the things that I wanted, that I thought drugs and alcohol was gonna provide to me, I never got. And it's like the moment I got sober, all the things I could have wanted and more have like been given to me in a way, you know? Because it's like sometimes I'm like, bro, I don't even know how I got this. It's just like a couple months ago, I was wondering if I'll ever get it, and then a boom, like an opportunity comes up, and it's like, here, man. And I'm like, okay, cool, you know, just keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
Damn, that's a bar. Hey, I wanted to take a quick second and thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch these videos. Hope you're enjoying the conversation as much as I am. If these videos have impacted you in any way possible, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe button. And if there's anything that you would like to see, whether it be like character development, something that has to do with recovery or spiritual growth, let me know in the comments and I'll implement it on my next video. Once again, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. So, what have you learned about yourself through living by these principles, especially at a younger age and maturing?
I learned that what I've learned about myself is that I'm super that I still struggle with insecurities, even though sometimes I don't like to believe it. I know I do. That I catastrophize a lot of things in my head. That I go from my check engine light can go on and I'm spiraling like, man, if I lose my car and it breaks down, I'm gonna have to buy a new one, and then I'm gonna get kicked out, and then I'm gonna have to find where to, like, you know, I just start catastrophizing everything, bro. So like, you know, definitely that. That I'm still trying to control everything. I was with my girlfriend today, and she got sad because she was trying to help me, And I basically told her I was like, baby, just stop. I'm going to just do it. And it hurt her feelings. But what it stemmed from is that I realized is that, like, when it comes to little things, I'm always trying to control how people do it. And if they don't do it how I want them to do it, I'll just tell them to stop and let me do it myself. And it could be little small things, and it's just like, again, that controlling, like I'm trying to control everything. Because if I can control everything, it'll make me feel better, when in reality, I don't have control of those things. Um, Also, like, going to therapy, I think that's a big one that a lot of people might downplay. Like my good friend always tells me, he's like, Santana, he's like, you could spend all this money on your outside appearance or on external sources, but like, why don't you put that money to fix that internal part of you? And I'm just like, man, like, that's so true. Like, why do I find it hard to invest money into therapy, but I can invest it into, I don't know, an Xbox or something, that isn't gonna really fix me. It's just a, you know what I mean? It's just it's just an item, but it's not gonna fix me or help me get to a better solution about myself. Uh, yeah, those are like some big ones that have been like some clear indicators for me that, like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. The work doesn't stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty about it too, man. It's like there's always something to work on.
Yes.
There's always something to work on, and
Even like my body, man. Like, I feel like my back's starting to hurt now if I don't sleep right, and like the other day or yesterday, me and my girlfriend, we went to get full body massages, and it's like I've never been able to afford that. I never even considered that. But like, even like physically, like trying to take care of myself better, like diet, going to the gym, like my body, like, I don't know, bro. Like, I know I'm young, but like, man, like, I feel like I put so much wear and tear on my body just from using and like just getting, you know what I mean? Just getting it, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like trying to take care of myself, like physically and stuff too, has been a big one. Um, yeah, those have been like the main things that have been going through my head recently.
that's awesome, bro. Sometimes it's overwhelming to think about all the stuff that needs to be worked on, right?
Mhm.
Especially like it just like not only just spiritually but maturing.
Yeah.
Like maturing as a man. Uh,
Not taking things personally.
yeah, like there's just
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's even like overwhelming to even think about.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's awesome. And so, how do you balance the need for personal growth and independence with the importance of staying connected to a support network? Like, how do you balance everything? Like, like your relationships, right? Like, going to therapy, like recovery, right? Like spiritual growth. Like, how do you, how do you balance everything?
Bro, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure out a balance to things, because I think that's like another thing where it's like maturing, like prioritizing, having a schedule, sticking to the schedule, which is not, that's foreign to me. I'm used to just waking up and like, all right, what do I, like just going off of the gun, like, okay, what do I got to do? Who do I got to get money from? How am I going to get high? That was it. But now it's like my like we talked about, my life is so full today. Oh, oh shoot, my bad. No, yeah, it's like my life is so full. How do I prioritize everything? But I find that like what I try to stick to the most is making sure that I invite God in my morning and end my night with God. And I struggle with that still. I'm not perfect at that. Upon awakening, nightly inventory. Uh, but I find that when I do that, I'm usually able to have a productive day, even if I don't do everything I needed to do. Um, Things still get done. Um, But it's difficult. I don't even know yet because I work two jobs, so it's like trying to work two jobs, fit therapy, make time for my girlfriend, make time for meetings, sponsoring guys, like all these things. It's just like, man, like it gets overwhelming. But for me, like as much as I struggle with doing a lot of those things, I find that as long as I have God in my life and I'm continuing to try to grow spiritually, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna stay sober, and I think that's the big thing that's kind of like that relief is like as long as I keep growing spiritually and having God in my life, I'll be fine. And eventually those things will just start falling into place.
That's awesome, bro. And
Yeah.
that's perfect. That's a perfect answer, bro. Like what and like what would you tell somebody that, especially somebody young, right, and like that has been in a household where maybe their parents were religious and it's probably scared them away from the idea of having a relationship with God, because we talk about that so much in the program, like we're used to talking about it now, but what would you say to someone that's maybe hesitant about the whole idea of God and having a relationship with God?
Yes. I love it, man. I love it. I love my relationship with my higher power. Um, I feel like for so long I always turned away from it, not because I didn't want God in my life, but because I felt guilty and I didn't forgive myself. So I didn't forgive myself. So I was wondering how God could forgive me, you know? But on the same end, like if God is true love, if I can forgive somebody for doing me wrong, through that four step, looking at my part, like I don't know, I feel like my perspective's just changed on it because now it's like I know I'm not perfect, but if I can forgive other people for doing me wrong that I felt they were truly wrong for doing me, why wouldn't God be able to forgive me? You know? So I don't know, like just kind of getting that self criticism out of my head. If I mess up, I don't dwell on it or let that or feel guilty. Instead I just go to God in prayer and just talk about it with Him. I'm like, hey, I've been struggling in this, like, please forgive me. You know how I do, my prayers. Obviously, I do it a little different in my prayers, but that's the main idea of it. Um, it was definitely that, and going into a relationship with God in prayer with the right attitude. Like, because I've heard people say, like, if you find prayer and meditation aren't working for you, it's because you're not going into it with the right mindset. And I remember I would do that all the time. I'm like, man, meditation don't work for me. Why even try it? Or God wants nothing to do with me. Why should I even pray? Like those things were already in my head. So when it came to acting on it, I was already going into it thinking it wasn't going to work. And sure enough, it didn't work. I didn't feel nothing about it. But when I finally got that head change where I was like, okay, like, let me give it a shot. Let me give it a true honest hearing and see how it works out. And sure enough, the moment I started actively praying, meditating, I started feeling better about myself, about my situation, um, having hope, having faith that things are gonna work out, and they always work out, bro. I don't know why, but it always works out. So I think just eventually it gets to a point where if you put into practice prayer and meditation and trusting in your higher power, eventually there's going to be evidence that shows you that He's in your life to where you no longer question it. You're like, I know what to do. It's just a matter of am I going to do it or not?
That's awesome, dude. That's
Yeah.
awesome. The focusing on intention part is crazy.
Yes. Yes.
Cause it's true, like my prayers are different when I'm intentionally doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm intentionally trying to grow closer with God. Um, that's awesome, dude. Thanks so much. Um, and then, so like, what is the most recent inspiration that you've received?
It's,
Yeah, whether it's something that you've read recently, something that you've heard recently, something that yeah.
um, I meant to watch. I feel like that. I kind of had an idea that question was gonna come up, and there was something. Yes, and I love it too. Um, so there's been two, man. Uh, there's been two big things that have been on my mind. Obviously, the first one I keep on the front of my phone just because it's so true to me is that what you're not changing, you're choosing. And it's just like a lot of things that I want to work on, and in my head I'm like, oh, I want to do, either go to the gym or stop vaping or all these things that I'm struggling with. In reality, I could have all these goals to do something about it, but when I look at it realistically, I'm not changing anything. So I try to, so if I'm not changing it, then I'm choosing that still. So I try to keep that in my head when it comes to working on myself. Like if I'm not changing anything, then I'm still choosing to continue that behavior. So why even complain about it? So just kind of taking accountability. um because I'm so used to pointing the finger and blaming external sources, but the moment I could put that blame on myself is the moment I could finally change it. you know so that's a big one. And also, I forget the exact explanation it was, or like the way it was said, but basically the premise was is that why do you keep letting your mind have control over you? In a way of like, sometimes I could find my mind telling myself, Santana, like, you're less than, you're not smart enough, you're ugly, you can't do this, you're gonna fail anyway, so why try? Like these negative things that my mind tells me, why do I believe them? Why am I letting my mind trick me and believing these things that I'm telling myself when in reality I know it's not true? So like, trying to work through that has been a big thing for me, is not letting my mind deceive me when it comes to negative statements that I tell myself. Um, because I feel like that's a big thing, you know? So those have been like the two things that have been on my mind is, where you're not changing, you're choosing, and not trying to let my mind run like myself, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, self sabotage. Yes, exactly.
Negative talk. Yeah,
Mhm.
I just saw a video. It was like you. It was like your mind. You can train your mind to not think negatively. Yeah,
Mm.
and like, it's so true, right? And it's not only just about affirmations, but I'm a product of what I consume through my ears.
Right.
So
Oh
like
yeah.
if I'm constantly hearing positive stuff, that's why it all ties together, right? Like my circle, right? If I look at
That's
my
true.
circle, it's a reflection of me, you know. And if my circle's constantly complaining, then it's gonna reflect upon me. So like, I am a product of what I consume, right? So like, what I do listen to when nobody else is watching or when nobody else is watching matters, right? What I am doing when nobody else is watching matters as well, right?
Mm.
And like what I'm studying matters, who I listen to matters, right? Who I look up to matters. Like it
That's
all
so
ties in
true.
together, bro. Cause
Yeah.
and I've noticed it lately too within myself because lately I've been on this. Lately I've been not listening to a lot of music much, but I've been listening to a lot of speakers, like
Mm.
on YouTube. A lot of like the Myron Golden,
Yes, bro.
and
He's
bro,
so
like
fire.
yeah, and like the way I think is different now. It's so weird, and that's the only thing I've really been doing different the past couple of weeks, is I've been Xing out music and just been listening to positive stuff.
That's something like I want to work on, because I agree 100% with what you're saying. But then it comes back to that, like, man, like 25 and I'm not even listening to like, current music that's out. But then again, I'm like, what do I really want from my life? And it's like, I want to be the best version of myself and like be able to help others and, like be the beacon rather, be the example. So But then it comes back to that, like, man, like 25 and I'm listening to motivational speakers all the time.
Yeah. And it sounds boring as shit, bro. Like it does. Like what I do, it sounds boring as hell, but there's a principle, and it's called, or it's the easy hard principle. Whatever's hard on the front end is gonna be easy on the back end. So like whatever I'm doing now that's hard and boring is gonna pay off in the long run.
Yes.
And like so, just keep like I just keep that in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
It's just true.
And I wouldn't even say like it's like for me, I can look at that and be like, it's not boring. Like that's so beneficial. But when I take a scope out, I'm like telling that to somebody else my age or in the same age bracket is probably like, bro, like what are you talking about? But in my head, like, no, it makes sense.
It's not like you can't listen.
Yeah.
It's just like just listening to less of it.
Yeah.
I used to listen to music 24/7. Like
Mhm.
I'm never not listening to music.
But sometimes, like, I'll be like, the longer I stay sober and I'm listening to music, like, rap music, and like I'm singing it, sometimes I'm thinking, sometimes I'll pause and be like, bro, like I can reflect and be like, bro, what I'm listening to is so bad and so like unspiritual, and it's like, again, like, making those changes is something I want to do. Because definitely music as well is like something that I know in the future that I do want to change, like not so much profanity, cleaner music. So, those are changes eventually I know I want to happen. But it's just crazy, because 2 years ago, if you would have talked to me about that, I'd been like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like that perspective change that the program gives us is like what allows me to continue to grow and like be level headed and like that fog removed, bro. You know what I mean? That fog is removed. So, but yeah, I agree.
Awesome, bro. Yeah, no, thanks so much for doing this, bro.
Yes.
Just because we're running out of time, bro, but I appreciate you, man.
Yes. Hey, it's good to be back here on the Spiritual Approach, man. Shout out to everyone watching. That's it, bro.
Name change coming soon.
For real?
About to drop. No, I'm just